Okay guys, I'm video mad. It's Friday as well. I've just done my hyperpigmentation video, so you'll notice that my skin has got a lovely white hue to it because I've just put some zinc oxide sunscreen on. So I'm going to do a look, and I thought, let's use Pretty Little Things, that palette that my sister got me for Christmas, and do that one first, just in case it's still available from MAC, and I will just double check whether or not it is. Okay, well, I've just looked it up and it looks like it's sold out everywhere. So this is not going to be as much of a review, but just to show you how I use the colours. However, they have got a palette on MAC by Patrick Starr. And that was a palette that I'd said to my sister that I really liked. And when she went into MAC, they said they didn't have it in the shop, but this palette was very similar. Now, they're right, it is very similar. The only thing is it doesn't have the blue in it. But it does have the emerald green, and it does have the black, and it does have these brown shades. So if you're looking for something similar and you're not really worried about the blue shade in the palette, then I'm going to put a link below to the Patrick Starr palette, which has got this emerald green. It's got similar colours. Okay, so whenever I use my zinc oxide sunscreen, because it gives me this white hue, I always have to use my Becca foundation, which is in tan, which is way too dark for me. But if I mix it with my regular foundation, it just counteracts the white hue. So today I'm going to mix my Becca Aqualuminous foundation in tan with Tarte Shape Tape Hydrating Foundation, which I don't think I've shown you before. It's probably one of those that I didn't review in my Foundation Friday. So I'm going to mix those together, and I'm not going to do a primer because that zinc oxide is still quite powerful on my skin and will give me that moisture that I need, and certainly give me some brightening. Okay, so the Becca foundation is a dropper, which I've dropped on my hand, but the Tarte Shape Tape Hydrating Foundation is a doe foot. So I'm going to put that on like this, and then I'm going to add the Becca one over the top so that they mix together in that way. And hopefully this will work. And it doesn't work, but I kept going to show you how I can correct it. So keep tuned. All right, and then I've got the Becca one on my hand, which I shall put on a sponge, and I will use it to mix it together. As you can see, it's coming out quite light. I think I need to spray my sponge a bit more, otherwise I'm going to look like a painted doll. Bear with me. I'm going to spray my face instead, because that will apply it more evenly. Okay, that's better. It's going to spread better now. And I hadn't realised, I'd forgotten that with this hydrating foundation from Becca, you have to work quite quickly. Can you see where I didn't work quickly there? How it's not blended in quite as well as this side. It seems to set quite quickly. If you get a foundation that does that and it sets very quickly, just spray your face and then you'll be able to move it again. If I just do that on that side of my face, then I'll be able to move it around again and it won't look so painted on. Now that would have been better if I could mix it on my hand. I'm just going to go in with another little layer and I'll try and mix it with the doe foot and the Aqualuminous on my hand, just so that it's got a bit more of a uniform appearance, not really for coverage. Okay, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've mixed some on my hand. I think I should have done that to begin with, but never mind, lesson learnt. The reason that didn't work, and it can work, the reason that didn't work very well was because the Becca foundation is quite liquid and the foundation from Tarte is quite thick. So spreading one on first and trying to mix it on your face just didn't work. I had to thin it out on my hands before it looked uniform in colour all over my face. And I'm repeating myself, but the reason I'm adding this is not for more coverage, but because it wasn't looking even, the colour all over. And places I was looking fairer and other places I was looking more tanned because I hadn't mixed it well. Okay, that's better. And now I'm going to set it with some powder. Okay, I'm going to use Vichy Derma Blend powder, which I haven't used for a while, setting powder, but I forgot I haven't put my concealer on yet. That's because actually this is quite good coverage, but I'll just use a little bit for eye brightening. I don't really think I need any anywhere else. So I'm just putting the Huda one on, the Overachiever Concealer. I nearly said the Over Concealer Achiever then. I think I'll put more on that side than the other, but never mind. Okay, and now I'm going to use this powder from Vichy, which is Vichy Derma Blend, and this has a powder puff in it, which I'm going to use, and then I'm going to brush the excess off with a brush. Let me get the brush. I'm going to excess off with a powder brush by Real Techniques. As you can see, this is completely white. It's translucent, so it's not going to add any further colour to your foundation at all. It's just going to set your foundation. And Derma Blend is very good because it sets it so that it doesn't budge. It's for people that have got pigmentation issues or acne that needs high coverage foundation and they need it to stay on all day. You notice I haven't gone under my eyes by using this. I would rather do that with a small setting brush, which I shall do. I'll let that sit for a second while I know I'm baking my face a bit by doing that. I'll let that sit for a second while I just powder under my eyes. The reason for that is if I press the powder under my eyes, like I'm doing with the rest of my face, it is going to accentuate fine lines and wrinkles a lot more than if I just apply it with a setting brush. And I do that by dabbing from the outside inwards. I always go against the wrinkles so that it gets into the wrinkles. Not that way, because then it just goes over them and then it's more likely to look creased. Okay, and then I just take a brush and wipe off the excess with the brush. So it's just another method of putting your powder on. These colourless powders are very good if you've got a really good foundation, you've got good colour and you don't want to disturb that colour, go for translucent. RCMA no colour powder is good as well, although some people just can't get on with the container, which is like a salt shaker. Okay, now let's get going with these pretty little things. Jack's going to be back any minute now, so you're going to see him coming in. Okay, now this morning you'll have seen a video. I think I'm going to upload this the same day, but you will have seen a video about, you know, just how I want to inspire you all to think, yeah, I can do that. But I'm going to do this in a very simple way. I'm dying to use that emerald green, so I've got to use that, and I'm going to use some of the browns. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pretend that I've really not got a lot of time, and I want to put this on as simply as possible. So I'm going to take that emerald green with my finger, and I'm just going to start pressing that onto my lid. Like so. Now you can do this with any shimmer shadow. It's a really easy and quick way of just getting a really nice look. And I'm not going to do anything too complicated, just so that you can see what these shadows are like, but also how to do a look, a wow look, very simply. Okay, so I'm just pressing that shimmer shadow, and this can relate to any shimmer shadow that you're using, really. Most of them apply really well with the fingers. And a lot of the time, they apply better with the fingers than actually with a brush. Sometimes it's difficult to get right into this corner with the eyeshadow with your fingers. That's the only reason I think a lot of people revert to brushes. Just keep patting it very gently, so you're pressing it into the skin, and that also will help it to last longer. Okay, so immediately you've got something that looks, sorry, I've got a really itchy nose. You've got something that looks quite decent. And then I'm just going to go in with this lighter brown shade here, this one here, okay? And I'm just going to build that one up, and then the other matte one next to it, so that I've got that into the crease of my eye. That's Jack. I'll be right back. Right, he's back, and can you believe he's just been out in the snow in just his t-shirt. I send him to school.
It wasn't a t-shirt.
All right, well, I send him to school in about 5 layers, and he comes back with that and his 2 coats wrapped around his waist. What can I do with a boy like that?
Nothing. Do you know what? I was actually about to take my shirt off.
Well, if you'd done that, I'd have gone nuts.
This is burning.
He just doesn't feel the cold. So I'm just carrying on, putting this on. So if you want this to relate to another eyeshadow palette, you just pick a matte shade. And then I want to go in with a slightly darker matte shade just on the corner, because I've got hooded lids. If you don't have hooded lids, that's not a problem. And I've just remembered that this comes with a brush, and why didn't I try it? Let me go and pick that up from the floor, and I will. I'm really excited about this because matte brushes tend to be very good, and this has got 2 sides to it. The only thing is that both sides are quite similar. One's got more of a point to it. This one's more flat, but other than that, they're about the same kind of feel on the skin. But anyway, I'm going to use this pointy side, and I'm going to go in with the darker of the matte browns, which is this one here. Okay, And I'm just going to tuck that in to the corner, just to build up the intensity and make my lids look deeper set. And actually this brush is very good for packing it on and blending it at the same time without it dispersing too much, which is good. Okay, and then I'm going to take that darker brown with the same brush, because it's got quite a point to it, and just take it underneath. Okay, and then the only thing I will say about this palette is it doesn't seem to have an obvious highlighter shade. Let me have a look at this one at the end. See, that is quite silver. I'll try it underneath my brow, but I think it might be a bit much. Let's just tap as much of that off as I can and see whether it works. Just about, but it's a little bit on the glittery side. Mind you, this is a party palette, guys. So. Okay, now if I do that, use that shade and just dab some in the center there, it'll just give you that little bit more highlight in the center of the lid, which you know I often do, just to make the light hit the center of the lid a little bit more. Okay, now if that line underneath is looking a bit stark, just take your lighter brown. I'm going to take that with the other side again, the pointy side, and just run that slightly underneath to help fade it out. Okay, so that is your look. Now, I'm going to do something else with this palette, because you know I like experimenting, but when there's a black in a palette, because you can take a line, and I think that shadow powder black looks a lot more flattering if you've got hooded lids or your lids are a little bit crepey, because it just doesn't accentuate fine lines as much. It just looks a lot more flattering. So I'm just going to run that black over here. Now if you want a more intense black line than that, you can wet it and then it does make it into a more of a liquid, but I like to keep it a bit powdery so that there isn't such a defined line, and then sweep it up a little bit at the sides there and just blend it out. And I'm using the eyeliner brush from the Real Technique set, because it makes it really easy to do a good liner. I've got some other really good eyeliners brushes. There's one by Tarte that I will show you some other time. That is an angled one, so it helps you to get really into this corner without sort of hitting your nose in the process. Now I'll take that underneath because I want to join up the line, and I haven't taken that up and out yet, but it just gives me a bit of a guide. So I'm going over a little bit of that brown, but just on that outer corner, just so that I link up the two lines, the upper and lower line. Like that. And then I'm just going to smudge it with my finger. Okay, so that's the eyeshadow done. So I hope you like that. There is a blue. I must show you the blue. I did actually want to use the blue today, but because it's not available, there isn't a palette similar, I didn't use it. But that's the blue. That's lovely, isn't it? I'll have to use that one day. Okay, so next up, I'm just going to do my mascara and my brows, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've done that, and I am going to use this Cocoa Contour, which I got from my sister for Christmas. I'll talk about it in more detail another time, because obviously this get really long if I don't. But it's basically, it's got two bronzers. Let me just show you this. So it's got two bronzers, and it's got two highlighters, and then this is a little recess for this brush, which I'm going to try. Why not? So I think I'm going to use the darker one to contour and chisel a bit, like so. So this one's called Dark Cocoa. It's quite warm for a contour. I think contours always look better when they're a bit grey, but I would tend to use this more, I would have thought, as a bronzer, which is why I was wondering whether to use the lighter one, the medium one, which is that one up there. But anyway, I'm going to use that one as a bronzer. And these smell of chocolate. Do they taste of chocolate? No. Sometimes they actually taste of chocolate as well. And then I'm just going to use a little bit up here, just to contour around my head and under my chin. I don't think I'm going to use this dark one around my nose. And I know I look like I've got a line at the moment, but have no fear, because I'm going to then go in with the lighter shade, which is medium cocoa, and instead of putting it down that way, I'm going to use this way to make it more of a bronzer. So that should blend it in a little bit more. So I'm using the lighter shade more as a bronzer than as a sculptor, but also to blend out that sculpt.
I can handle it if you go, but you break Mom's heart, and I won't forgive you for that. Where's the van?
And underneath.
It's over the horizon, in the driveway.
Across my head. And then I'm going to use it as a contour, the lighter one, down my nose. What's that you got? Oh. Okay, and then for the highlighter, you have a choice of a sparkly one or a lighter one. I use them both. I'll put the light matte one on first, which is called Light Cocoa. So you can see that's just going to give you a bit of a highlight without shimmer. So it's quite good for the day. So it's just going to brighten. You could almost get away with putting this under the eyes to brighten under the eyes like that. There you go. Because it's matte. It hasn't got any shimmer in it that I can see. If it has, it's very, very subtle. I don't think it's got any shimmer in it. So I'm just doing that under there to kind of lighten. So anywhere where you want to lighten, but you don't want to necessarily shimmer, you can. I know I've just put bronzer there as well, but I'm just testing this out. And then you've got the shimmery one, which is called Pop of Light. And with that, I'm just going to use the side of the brush like this to just go like that. Which is quite pretty, but it's quite... The only thing I will say is that the glitter particles are quite big. They're quite chunky. So I would probably tend to go for this more as a kind of nighttime highlighter. Can you see that? Can you see the glitter particles are quite chunky? It's pretty, but it's quite glittery, and it smells good enough to eat. And this one would be good to put here in the corner of your eye, the one with a bit of glitter in. And you could swipe that under the eye, but again, it's probably, I don't like things with glitter under my brow that much. I'm not going to put that down the centre. I don't want glitter down the centre of my face. Okay, so that's that. I think I'd probably, this one I'd use more for bronzing than contouring. My only feedback about that, really. It's lovely, but I think it would be more of a bronzer for me than a contour. But what I might do is try using it the other way round. So using the medium cocoa as a contour and the other one as a bronzer. Okay, let's move on to blush. Look at that, he doesn't need blush, he's got nice pink cheeks without it. Right, I always like to use peachy blushes for green eye makeup, and so I'm going to use First Love, which is the one I repaired, which is still going strong, of Charlotte Tilbury's. And I'm just going to put that on there. So I'm just swishing at the moment. And then I'm going to pop. She's going to give me some of Jack's pinkness in my cheeks. Peachy pinkness. Yeah, you got it naturally. You don't have to paint yours on.
Exactly.
I forgot to tell you that I put some white eyeliner on the inner waterline, and that was the minted one that I got the other day, the Mint Cream NYX white eyeliner. Okay, I suddenly thought, why don't I use this lipstick that came out of the little cracker that you'll have seen earlier? It's actually lighter than I thought it was going to be. And this is called You Better Work. So as it's a liquid matte lipstick, matte metallic lipstick, I'm not going to use a lip liner. I'm just going to put it straight on with the doe foot. I have to admit, when I first looked at that, I thought I wouldn't pick that lipstick for myself. But that's why it's really good to get people getting you presents, because I quite like that on. It's a nice change. And it, you know, I veer away from brownie lipsticks, but it's not just brown, it's got a bit of interest to it. So I'm really pleased with that. Tell me what you think. I think it's quite nice as well because the eyes are quite, the colour's quite bold, so it doesn't detract from the eyes. I'd have probably put a peachy lipstick on with this. That would be my other thing, which of course you could mix the lipsticks, but I quite like that for a change. So that is called You Better Work, and that's Too Faced Melted Matte, metallic, they call it, metallic. So it's kind of got a metallic finish to it as well. Let me just swatch that on the inside of my arm so that you can see what it might look like on fairer skin. Because obviously I'm a bit darker than a lot of you watching me. I say obviously, but from what you've told me. So you see, it looks a little bit more chestnutty. So if you're fairer, it's going to come out. It's going to come out with a bit warmer than it is on me. Okay, but I think that's lovely. Okay, I just wanted to show you this photo, which is from johnlewis.com. And it's all the shades of this matte Alec lipstick from Too Faced. Now, as I go up, you'll see that there's a shade called Pillow Talk, which looks very like Charlotte's Pillow Talk, except obviously it's in a matte metallic version of. Now, I don't know how they've got away with this, because although there are makeup companies that use the same shade names across different brands, it's either a different product or a completely different shade. But this looks very similar to Charlotte Tilbury's Pillow Talk, except obviously it's matte metallic. So have a look and see what you think. It's a lovely shade. Sold out on John Lewis, that particular shade, but it's available on Too Faced website, and it's possibly available on other sites in the UK like Debenhams do Too Faced. So have a look, tell me what you think. It looks very similar. Here it comes. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed today's look, and I will see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.